Hey guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. I am one of your hosts, Michelle. We are waiting on the Arizona hearing and we will play it live as soon as it starts. But since I have some 1960 and 2000 where multiple, I'm assuming you're referring to multiple electors having been sent. Am I right on that? I'm trying to fix the color here and it's just not wanting to fix for me. I understand I look like a ghost and kind of weird. Michelle, name them all who are doing it. Okay, so right now we literally have Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Nevada so far. We'll have to see. Love Liz says CNN is reporting that Ohio cast their votes for Trump. All right, Liz. I've got two of you, Amy and Liz, on it. Let's see. Ohio cast votes for Trump. Electoral College. Oops, I spelled that wrong. Thank you, guys. That's the trouble with streaming live. I don't have a chance to look up stuff. All right. Ohioans saw their votes in the November election put into action today when members of the... Wait. You guys are really messing with my head here. Ohio went for Trump. I'm like literally thinking every state went... Was anybody else following me on that? Was anybody else's brain kind of going like sideways? Of course we cast our votes for Trump. We went for Trump, you sillies. Okay, yes. I'm sorry. That was my own... brain aneurysm of some sort there happening. Ohio went for Trump. I voted for Trump. I'm from Ohio. We were Trumpy all the way. I'm like literally waiting for every state to contest their votes at this point. So yes, Ohio cast their votes for Trump. Oh my gosh, you guys are making me lose my mind. You said it like it was some sort of breaking news. Yes, Ohio. Yes. Well, okay, but I didn't see that his blue check mark on there when I just went and checked. He should have said that I believe you. I just didn't. I'm looking at his Twitter right now from December. Here, I'll screen share with you guys so you can see what I'm looking at here. This is Mike DeWine's Twitter. And usually there's a pinned tweet here, but there's not today. This is from December 12th. I don't see any other tweet from Governor DeWine here. Just those tweets. So maybe it was a reply to something, probably. That happens a lot but no, that should still show up as a retweet, right? All right. So no, that was not breaking or anything new, but yes, Ohio cast their votes for Trump, as they should cast their votes for Trump, because we officially went for Trump. All right. Sarah says on Facebook, in Pennsylvania, the first time you vote in a specific voting location, you must show ID. If you vote at that same voting location in subsequent elections, no ID is required. They match your signature on file. This applies to in-person voting. Thank you for that, Sarah. Just call it a Biden moment. Yes, Dale, I definitely think that was a Biden moment. For sure. Yes, we have people coming in saying, yes, go to Governor Mike DeWine. I'm not going to the official governor's page. Okay. But I don't think it's not really that big of a deal. Like, I don't mind finding that out, but yes, you're right. Here it is. I'll screen share here. But he should have cast his vote for President Trump. That should come as no surprise to anyone. So yeah, let's just wait and see what happens as a result moving forward with these votes. I think it's fascinating that this is happening. I think we're living in unprecedented times, but very exciting times. I could not be more excited about what is happening, and I'll tell you guys why. And I'll take this moment to, although with their video going on in the background, it's a little bit difficult with the lighting, but I'm going to try to ignore it. Our nation has needed an overhauling. The swamp has gotten so thick and so deep for the past 100 years. Nothing short of like dying and coming back to life, like a resurrection of our nation, was going to remedy the situation. Oh, they're back. So I think that that's what this is, and I'm very, very excited.
As you know, I'm Tom Liddy, and I work for Alistair Adele, the County Attorney for Maricopa County, and I am with our entire Civil Division office. We represent the Board of Supervisors, as well as the reporter, as well as all of the other elected officers. And with regard to this hearing, the employees, 58 full-time employees of Maricopa County who put on the elections every year. And I've been asked by my client, the chairman of the Board of Supervisors, to assist this council, as I have been over the past week through a variety of teleconferences, and as we pledge to do in the future, as this body and the future elections committee works to examine past practices to make determinations if they want to make changes to the legislation. And we pledge our availability to assist in that regard. But I'm not a fact witness in that everything that I learn with regard to my representation of my clients, but I am here to help to the extent that I can provide that for you. You obviously are very ably represented by your own counsel, and I won't be giving you any legal advice. That wouldn't be appropriate, and you don't need that. I will say, let me just start by saying that I have been working in election law since 1995, when there was quite a change in the House of Representatives, and my particular party, before I was working for the government, took over the Capitol, and I was asked to go up to the Capitol. And I practiced election law in many different states, nearly 20, over the better part of 30 years. And I can say with a great deal of confidence that the statutory framework provided to the counties in Arizona, specifically provided to our county, Maricopa County, is very strong, very robust. And my hat's off to the persons, the legislators, currently and in years past, who have worked so hard and so knowledgeably to give such detailed directions to the county. So my hat's off to you. And with that, all the county does, all our clients do, is follow the law. We don't decide the best way to run an election. Our employees don't make decisions and, hey, maybe this is better than that. No, we don't do it that way. We do it according to the legislature and for one very specific purpose. Is that is this great experiment we have in American Republican constitutional framework provided, as it was cited by this chairman at the very beginning of this hearing, Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2. It's very unique. The United States government recognizes the power of the state legislature to write the rules for the elections. Not the governor, not the Secretary of State, certainly not boards of supervisors, not even the Congress, although they dabble around the edges on federal elections, that sort of thing. But it's the state legislature that does that. And we recognize that awesome power and that foresight by the framers. And we take it very seriously. We don't do free form in Maricopa County. We abide by the rules as stated by the Arizona legislature. So as we go through the process, and you've heard in great detail from Mr. Jarrett how we go through the process, in particular this election, November 3rd, 2020, I just ask that you bear that in mind. Every single thing we do is informed by Title 16 as written by this legislature. And our county does not have the liberty to deviate from that. So with that, I do want to say that if the statute allows for criticism, obviously that's fine, and for contests, and there have been contests. It also allows for lawsuits, and they've had lawsuits. And under the Article 3 power, the rules are set by the courts on how those lawsuits run, and they've been tested a little bit in the last couple of weeks, and we're going to get ready to go through some of that. So there are rules for making pleadings in court, and there's rules for admissibility of evidence, and all of that stuff came into play as this variety of lawsuits went through. I think we've had 7 different lawsuits, 8 or 9 different decisions. We have 2 right now before the United States Supreme Court. We expect those to be resolved relatively recently. But I want to touch on some of them because I think it will provide this committee with some additional information that it may find useful as it approaches its constitutional duty to address potential changes in the future. So first of all, we've had 4 different Superior Court judges and 7 Arizona Supreme Court justices and 1 federal district court judge who've all looked at these claims. Every single one of them have found the pleadings, the claims of errors on the part of Maricopa County to be lacking significantly. And that's interesting that it would be unanimous, especially in the Arizona Supreme Court. I ask that you bear that in mind. So in these particular slides, we're going to cover 5 of those cases. And in these cases, we represent the Board of Supervisors, Maricopa County, and the county reporter. So the plaintiffs change from time to time. Let's click over to one of them. So this is Trump v. Hobbs. The allegation was that we've heard a lot about Sharpies. We heard a lot about green buttons as well. The green buttons were a characteristic of the precinct tabletop tabulators we use. But specifically, Sharpie markers were bleeding through the paper ballots and causing a rejection of ballots brought on by alleged erroneous reading of overvotes. I think, as you heard through the testimony of and the presentation of Mr. Jarrett, that the ballots were offset so that bleed through would not create an erroneous vote count on the other side, which of course would likely be an overvote. We had a record rate, a very low rate of overvotes in November 3rd, 2020 election. And so that evidence doesn't stand up. But the case, we had testimony that there were witnesses who were worried about whether or not their vote was counted. And one particular witness came forward and she testified that she was fine with the process and very comfortable with it. She got her ballot, she checked in with the site book, voted it, and put it into the tabulator. And she found no indicia at all within the vote center that there was any problem. But it wasn't until after she left, when she spoke to some people, her words, and to some lawyers, and specifically to her father, that she began to get weird whether or not her ballot was counted. And of course, as you can understand, the court wouldn't find that evidence of a problem with the tabulator. She didn't see any problem with the vote center at all. It was outside opinions or suggestions, what have you. Another individual was asked, he came forward in that particular lawsuit, and he said he didn't see anything wrong either, but he just didn't trust machines much. Okay, that's fine, he's entitled to that, I get it. But in Arizona, we're required to count ballots by machines because the legislature mandates it. And the reason the legislature mandates it is there's an extraordinary amount of evidence out there that when counting ballots, but specifically large numbers, very large numbers, we counted 2.1 million in this election, machines are much more accurate than humans are. Humans just make more mistakes. So in its wisdom, we don't have any discretion on that. We have to count them by machines. And evidence of an individual just not trusting machines much was not found to be very probative by the court in that regard. Let's go to the next slide if we can.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Leach, you have a question?
Yes, I do have a question. Mr. Lee, good to see you again. Mr. Lee, you talked about the folks that seemingly had problems after they left the voting place. Did you have any testimony in this or other suits where the testimony was that in fact their ballot had to be put into a machine several times and it kept getting rejected and finally went through or didn't go through? There seems to be a lot of that allegation moving around. Did you have an opportunity to discuss that? or did the prosecutor plaintiff bring it up?
I don't know if in that particular case the plaintiff brought it up. I believe a witness did bring it up, but that is an issue that has come up in a variety of cases and even outside the courtroom. It's very common when someone feeds in a ballot for an not to go in initially. Often it goes in twice. After twice, sometimes it's put into what's called the third drawer, and then it's counted by a much better, much more robust machine down at McTech. But I would not dispute that on many different occasions when people go on election day to vote and they put in a ballot, that it is not automatically counted the first time. The vast majority are, but it is not unusual for one to not be counted the first time.
We're not talking about day of voting as much as we're talking about the absentee ballot. So I don't know how much of this I really want to cover with you guys, but what we're gonna do is we're just gonna take breaks and go to Twitter. Jenna Ellis says, this is election interference. What is happening in America? From Philip Klein. Michigan Attorney General is threatening legislators with criminal investigation and possible prosecution if they disagree with her. And the Michigan governor and other officials are shutting down the people's house and preventing them from gathering today to perform their constitutional duty. Jenny Beth Martin says, breaking. The Georgia Secretary of State announced there will be a signature audit in Cobb County, Georgia, based on info that they did not verify signatures. Let's see. The .02 audit must be in 3 places: signature on file, absentee ballot, application, signature, and other outer envelope signature must verify all 3. Everyone's excited about the Georgia, Pennsylvania, Nevada electoral colleges casting their vote. Let's see here. I should be doing this on let's do this. Well, I guess I don't have to pause it. I can just mute them. I'm going to screen share with you guys here. There's a video of this. That's not what I wanted. Come on now. Here we go. A video of these people being blocked getting into the house to enter the state capitol. Here we go. Video: Michigan governor uses state police to block GOP electors from entering the state capitol. They said that they were the Republican electors there to cast their vote for the president. State police declined to let them enter the building or leave votes offered in a manila envelope. All right, let me put in my earbuds and we'll watch this together. Wow.
Representative, why are you here today?
We're here to do official business.
Representative, why are you here today?
All right, let's pause that one.
We're also on the governor's certificate of absence.
I'm not going to get into a political debate. I'm following the order.
Political debate. It's the official sealed document. The certificate of absence has also the GOP electors. They are here. They're trying to do their constitutional duty.
I understand.
And their constitutional duty requires them to be at the Senate chamber today at 2 p.m. They're here.
All right, they're not. I understand they're not being permitted in. If you have a problem, you can contact the governor's office, the Speaker of the House, Senate Majority Leader, or
I saw the governor's press release this morning. It said COVID. Is that the reason being given?
no.
All right, that was what the press release said. Is there another reason why?
You have to ask the governor's office. That's a question I don't have.
We have a copy of paperwork that was prepared as electors under their constitutional duty. Can I speak to the sergeant? We're also on the governor's certificate of absence.
I'm not going to get into a political.
Wow, wow, wow. This is real deal. The governor interfering. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. All right, we can get back to this guy, I guess. I don't really care to, but we will.
Okay, very good. So it looks like there's three options. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What would be different between the machines at a vote center and these machines you're talking about that are much more sensitive or robust at MTech that would then be able to read the ballot that could otherwise not be read at the vote center?
Well, again, this is not my area of expertise, but if you will, at a election day voting place, be it a vote center as it was in 2020, November 2020, or at a precinct polling place in previous years, there is a tabulator there that is smaller, it's more mobile, and it's not as powerful a machine as the very large ones that can count more rapidly and more accurately and count via stacks that they have at McTech. So it's just a different machine and it's much more robust. The technical reasons for that are beyond my area of expertise.
Okay, that's interesting.
I would tell you there are 9 of them, 9 of the big ones, McTech, and there are hundreds and hundreds of the precinct-based tabulators.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
But Mr. Liddy, you're not suggesting that either one of those machines is more likely to have a false vote, in other words, an incorrect vote. It's just the robustness of the counting.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions? Members, if you have a question, it really helps if you would raise your digital hand because I can monitor that on the screen. So Senator Borelli, I have no idea what that is that you just put that. Senator Borelli.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's a hand. I'm not sure. But thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Liddy, by any chance you don't happen to know what the ballot adjudication rate is for the mail-in ballots?
The ballot adjudication rate for mail-in ballots. By that, do you mean the total number of mail-in ballots that went through the adjudication process divided by the total number of mail-in ballots?
Well, how many adjudicated mail-in ballots were there?
I do not, but Mr. Jarrett may.
Okay, I'll wait. He can
Oh, it's okay. He just provided to me.
Oh, okay.
That rate is 11.27. 11.27, and that includes the write-in ballots that obviously could not be counted by the machine.
Yeah, Mickey Mouse, I'm sure, got a lot of ballots, got a lot of votes this year. But yes. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, hearing none, Mr. Liddy, please continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next slide I have up is Arizona Republican Party versus Fontes et al., and that et al. Is Maricopa County and the Board of Supervisors. And there were claims brought. Let me see if we
again. Are you paying attention to all of these dismissed? Do you know what it means to dismiss a case? It means not to hear it. You can't just look at what's going to be presented or the case that's being brought before you and say, I've heard it all, I've seen it all, there's not enough here, I'm dismissing it. Okay? They are dismissing this for political reasons because they want to hear no evil, see no evil, right? I don't hear it, I don't see it, I don't have anything about, because they don't want to they're all weak, wimpy, judges that don't want their name associated with standing up for something. So if they are dismissing these like on a whim, like they just could not care less. As long as they dismiss the case, it's not on their shoulders. So when this guy is sitting here and he's talking about all of these cases that are dismissed, it doesn't mean a single thing. All it means is that the judges in Arizona don't want to hear about the fraud. That's all that means. So I don't know like how long we listened to this guy today go over all of these cases where he's just talking about judges that refuse to listen to evidence. Oh, did I pause that? Oh, we don't want to pause anything. We're not going to get lagged behind.
The allegation with the county had spent a lot of money and a lot of time preparing to vote for all the elections, the presidential preference, the primary, and the general election of November 3, 2020. And then COVID-19 hit and hit hard in March and started to grow. And our county's elections department was inundated with phone calls from persons whom we regularly rely on to man the polling places. These are the poll workers you see every time you go and vote on election day. Incredibly dedicated people. They were fearful that they might contract COVID if they were there and the voters were flowing in and out. At the exact same time, the county was inundated by calls of our partners in elections, such as private buildings, churches, and what have you, where we placed precinct voting places, polling places. They didn't want to do it in 2020 because of COVID. So we had to make a change. And the change was recommended that we go use the technology for vote centers, and that's why that change was done. And so the state statute allows for voting centers. It didn't require a change in the law. I think I have that cite for you. It's Title 16, 411B. B as in Bravo. It authorizes counties to use vote centers. So there was no need to go to the legislature at that time to get specific authority to do it. And the statute also authorizes the Secretary of State to put together the election procedures manual. And in it, it was provided that the 2% hand count could be done polling places at vote centers rather than precincts. And it was that decision, not one made by the county, but that decision that was challenged in this suit. And of course, our defense of it was successful. And the challenge saying that the 2% hand count of vote centers rather than precincts, that was unlawful, that failed in the courts. Next slide, please.
Okay.
Any questions on that?
Mr. Liddy, we're going to pause for a second. Senator Ugenti Rita has a question, I believe.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman Farnsworth. Could you just take me back? Because you made a comment that voting by precinct is under attack.
Yes.
And what lawsuit are you referencing?
It is called, help me out here, team. It's DNC
Democratic National Committee
versus
v. Hobbs.
Okay, it's Democratic National Committee versus Secretary of State Hobbs.
And where is that in the courts?
It's now up at the United States Supreme Court. This case was formerly known as the Feldman case. It's been going on for quite some time, and it's an attempt by the Democratic National Committee to reduce the authority of the people of Arizona and the legislature of Arizona to allow it to run its own elections via precinct.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to get.
If I could take the theory is that right now, the obvious benefit of voting by precinct is a voter lives in one particular place, and there's a certain style of ballot that's custom made for you and your neighbors. And it not only has the president, the vice president, and the federal offices, but also your state legislature, your congressperson, and there may be a school board issues, all that sort of thing. And so we in other states require people to go and vote at their precinct. And there's obvious benefits for that. Well, the downside of that is some folks work far away from home, and they may be hourly employees. And their employers say, okay, it's election day, I'll give you an hour, go vote. And they have to travel quite a distance to get back to the polling place. And if there's a line, they get worried that they're not going to be able to get back to work in time, so they don't vote. That's the allegation that's made by the DNC and others.
I just have to
so that's the
give
challenge.
you guys a shout out and applause for the
If somebody goes to a vote
roughly 80 people
new printers that were
that are sticking around through this whole thing with me, making me not feel like I'm alone in the snore fest, because it's very important that we cover this stuff regardless of what the outcome is. We need to know what they are saying, what they are doing, what is happening. So, and that's just on YouTube. Thank you to the people watching on Facebook and Periscope as well.
That's the other side that is ballot harvesting.
You get
We
a
have
cookie.
law
Go
here
get a cookie.
in Arizona that prohibits ballot harvesting for election security reasons, and that is part of the exact same lawsuit.
Okay, I thought that the issue with that was voting out of precinct and whether those votes were counted, not necessarily an attack on precinct voting, but on whether if you voted out of precinct, you could indeed still tabulate that vote. But
that is certainly part of it. It was my word formulation, and it is my opinion that it's an attack on precinct voting. I'm sure not everyone agrees, but I do.
That's an important clarification because I don't interpret that as an attack on precinct voting, but to clarify what votes count if you were to vote outside of precinct. And if you voted outside of precinct, have you now violated your eligibility, I guess, and your vote shouldn't count? I think that's where that lawsuit was, but I'm not as familiar with it as you are, but.
Mr. Chairman and Senator Genti-Rita, you are not incorrect
With the
in that aspect of
responses
the
with their
lawsuit.
names, it drives me crazy.
The Ninth Circuit has made a decision to remove from Arizona and its legislature the ability to vote by precinct. And that is what I consider an attack on our ability to vote by precinct. So everything that you've stated about the lawsuit is correct. It's that additional part that was caused by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals that I consider an attack on our state's ability to do precinct voting. If you want to disagree with that formulation, that's fine.
No, I'm just getting clarity. So they literally, I read it, but they removed the ability for Arizona to conduct its elections by precinct?
They're trying to.
Okay, interesting. All right, I think that's interesting. Okay, I'll go back and review it. Thank you so much.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none. Mr. Liddy, please continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Aguilera et al. Versus Fontes et al. Okay, so that Aguilera is a voter, and there are other voters part of this lawsuit. Fontes, as we all know, the Maricopa County Recorder et al. Would be Maricopa County and the Board of Supervisors and the members. The allegation was the plaintiffs claimed that they voted, but feared that their ballots were not correctly tabulated. And they requested that the court order that Maricopa County allow them to go down to McTech and vote again and watch their votes be tabulated. The court found that the plaintiffs both cast their ballots in accordance, obviously, with the statutes and the procedures, but they would prefer the process to be different. They wanted to observe the tabulation of their ballots, but it's impossible to open the ballot box to identify and locate these plaintiffs' ballots and for review, or to change those ballots, and equally impossible for either plaintiff to cast another ballot, as doing so would be against the law. So that's what that vote was about. And I believe these were 2 or 3 issues. One of them, yeah. So one of them was a voter who put the ballot in the tabletop tabulator, the precinct-based tabulator, twice, and then it was put into the drawer number 3, and then it went down to McTech, where those more robust machines would count it. So it did comply with the law. It was machine counted. This particular voter said, but I wanted to watch it be counted, and there's no legal requirement for the county to allow, to provide for each and every of the 2.1 million voters to watch their particular ballot go through the tabulation machine at McTech. And so we prevailed in that lawsuit as well. I will mention this, in this lawsuit, this was the first lawsuit that we had that mentioned Dominion, or the Dominion voting systems. And plaintiffs brought forward a witness who has 20 years of experience in elections in Texas, and 5 years ago had done a report on a Dominion system that was used in Texas. And that, of course, that system's not the system that we have. The system we have that machines we're leasing is different than that. And so that report was 5 years old. A different system wasn't probative to the question in front of the court. So it was a finding of note that the problems that allegedly occurred in Texas 5 years ago are not the problems that were alleged here, because they're different systems And so that I just mentioned that because it was the first time. There was no evidence to support that any voters were disenfranchised in that case. Any questions on that before I move on?
It's impossible
questions?
to open the ballot box.
Hearing none, please continue.
The next is Ward v. Jackson et al. And now this is the case that was brought by one one candidate to be on the slate of presidential electors versus all the other members of the opposing slate. So this would be the Trump proposed slate of electors, which was on the ballot November 3rd, 2020, versus the Biden slate. And this was an election challenge. And they said that that there were erroneous count of votes and that the wrong person was declared the winner. And the theory there was that because the law mandates that all ballots be machine counted here in Arizona, and any ballot that cannot be counted by a machine, whether it be an election day tabletop or down at the McTech Center in the more robust machines, or mail-in ballots that come in and can't be voted, they have to go to the duplication boards that we heard referred to by Mr. Jarrett earlier. Now, some ballots always have to be duplicated. We do provide ballots that are very much enlarged for people that have difficulty seeing small font. And those very large ballots can never go through the machines and always have to be duplicated. Also, the overseas ballots, and there were just shy of 10,000 of those. They come in, according to federal law, via a specifically protected portal, and those have to be reproduced onto a ballot that can be counted in the machine. And then any ballot that was either misprinted because it went into the printer askew, or there's a stray mark on it, or a tear, or somebody spilled coffee, or sometimes people write notes on them, and the machines just can't count that. So all those are duplicated. And the allegation was that the duplication process was flawed. And because it was flawed, that somehow the ballots for the particular candidate in this case would have been President Donald Trump, that thousands of votes for Trump were not counted. And so this is the one where the court ordered us to test, and we went in and we did a random sampling of 100 of those ballots. And we ran through that, and we had teams of Republicans and Democrats and observers from the Secretary of State's office, and we just went through them one by one in a manner where everybody had plenty of time to look at each one. And in that first review of 100, we found 2 ballots in which there were mistakes made, 2 out of 100, so a 2% error rate. And personally, I think 100 ballots out of 27,869 is too small a sample size. Well, the plaintiffs also thought that, and so did the chairman of the board.
All right, Amy has a question.
And so
we're gonna
we went into court, and the plaintiff.
She says, why are they going over these lawsuits? I just am having a hard time understanding why Election Guy 2.0 is bringing these cases up. Answers anyone. The goal behind, so far, what I'm gathering for the 4+ hours we have been here listening, is for the Board of Elections in Maricopa County to cover their behind and to say there is nothing to see here, nothing was untoward, and here is all of my proof. You can ask me questions and I'm going to shoot you down. This is their lawyer who is going over all of the different cases that have been brought up in Arizona about the election fraud. And he's trying to prove that just because the courts dismissed them, they didn't actually hear the evidence, but because the courts dismissed the case, that's proof that the fraud did not take place. So they have to do this, okay? Because if they don't do it, then it's going to come back on them, right? Now, I'm trying to decide what to do. Patriot Gallery is the one that edits and reposts all of our videos. Okay? It's difficult for her to work with the videos that are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours long. Just from a file size standpoint, and then breaking them down. I don't know how much longer this is going to go because he was going to go over like all 30 cases, and I have not been keeping track of how many cases he's already gone through.
We had to stop at one point because we had to take what we found. And what we did find was 7 more mistakes. Hurt Biden, and 6 of which hurt Trump. And
I'm just trying to decide what I want to do because if I shut it off, honestly, I'm just going to shut it off. I'm not coming back here for this. So I either stay and we stick it out or we shut it down. I'm not going to, she wanted me to stop it and start a second stream so it would have a part 2. This to me is not worthy of a part 2. I'm just trying to get a feel for, like, I really thought, guys, honestly, because these senators fought so hard to get this official hearing to even happen at all. So if the left was fighting it so hard, I thought it meant because there was going to be actual evidence that we have seen in the past brought forward. And so far, if I was the left, I would have been pushing to have this hearing happen, to listen to these guys. Okay, we're going to send our dudes and we're going to show you how everything was on the up and up, and we're going to twist and spin it all exactly the way we want it to be heard. Like, so I don't understand where the pushback was coming from if we're not going to actually hear anything of substance here. Now, I know when we were listening in Georgia last week, we had like 2 hours of a snore fest, but then the rest of the day was just like bam, 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 bam. I had considered waiting until Leah got back from the dog walk, and I think that's going to be my answer. What I'm going to do, because she should be back here within the next 15 minutes or so. And when she comes back, we'll probably just round this off and then stop it. And then I'm going to continue to listen to it and monitor it. And if anything happens, then I'll start another stream. So I think that's the plan. Let's wait for Leah to get home. And I'm sure she's listening and has been listening as well. And we'll go from there. So we will continue to listen to this guy talk about all these dismissed cases. Until Leah gets here. But if you're like me, you are bored out of your mind. And like Leah has said in the past, we don't sit still well. I would be doing a million other things while listening to this instead of just sitting here.
Any questions? Senator Ugenti Rita with the digital hand up and the real hand.
Both. Yes, I did both just to, cover my bases.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But I'm continuing to monitor Twitter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your testimony regarding the statistical accuracy of this last election. But there were either, mistakes, errors, anomalies. I'm just really born out of sheer curiosity. What does that look like? Is that mistake on behalf of the equipment reading the adjudicated ballot incorrectly? And I don't even know if we're talking about adjudicated ballots or just the ballot incorrectly, or what would you contribute those mistakes? I know that they're small in nature, but what would they be contributed to? Maybe human error? What do they look like?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Ugenti Rita, excellent question. Yes, the answer is yes, human error. Through these processes, we found that there were 0 errors in this sample, this 1,626 that were made by the machine. Of the total errors of 9, we found that 1 was made by the voter, and that even if that error had been identified, it wouldn't have changed the tally. But of the other 8, those were made by the humans that were duplicating the ballots in accordance with the statute.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Liddy, so what does that look like for the adjudicated ballots? I'm thinking my understanding you've got like a Republican person and a Democrat there that both have to agree. So how do they agree to and make a mistake?
They're humans, Homo sapiens, Earthlings. That's how, or as one plaintiff said, real humans.
Earthlings?
That's how.
Did he
That's
just say
exactly
that?
how it would happen. You're exactly right. We would have 2 people plus 1 supervisor, a total of 3, and they had to be of 2 different parties, and the supervisor is an independent. And they look at them, and I can describe for you what I saw, and I can't remember all 9 of them, but one of them was a ballot, which what I believe was for Trump.
Okay.
And then when doing the duplication process, it looked like just as, I don't know if you can see my hand, but just as my hand is here, if I were filling the oval right here in Trump, I might hit with this knuckle right here, the oval that's 4 below for write-in. And so the voter had clearly voted for Trump. I'm hopeful that you can still hear me. So the voter had clearly voted for Trump. And then it appeared to me that this knuckle here hit and voted and filled the oval for the write-in, but there was no write-in. So when that went through the machine, that was counted as an overvote, right? So the error was made in duplicating the ballot because it was a vote for Trump and then it filled an oval at the write-in, but there was no write-in.
Oh, wait a minute. So where is the human error? So the machine kicked it out as an overvote.
Well, the human error was when duplicating the ballot, filling in the ovals 2 different places on the presidential slate, where it should have been 1. The voter did not make the error. The voter voted correctly.
So
It was the human duplication.
So you're telling me a Republican and a Democrat and a supervisor saw that, and the 3 of them agreed, wait a minute, this is what did they count that as, a non-vote, or like didn't count it? And then you're telling me someone in the court process was like, oh my God, look at that mistake. And then who is that person that gets to decide that whoever adjudicated that ballot was wrong? Like, how would they know more?
Mr. Chairman, compound and complex. No, I think you've asked me 3 different questions. Let me start with the first one. I wasn't there, so I don't know what the 3 people were thinking, but my theory would be they didn't see it. They thought they did it correctly, but they did not. And we know they did not because the court allowed us to go look at it and we found the error, right? So I don't think they made the error, looked at it and said, that's okay. They didn't. They were not aware, I'm sure. I can't be 100% sure. I wasn't there. They made the error and didn't catch it.
So let me guess, what's the error? How did those adjudicators, how did they count that ballot? Like a non-vote because it was?
No, let me back up a little bit, go through the steps. So the voter filled out the ballot. The one that I'm talking about right now, the voter did the correct thing. This particular voter voted for Donald Trump.
Okay.
Now the adjudication team looked at it and said, the ballot's damaged, the machine won't count it. By law, we have to hand duplicate it. By law, have to. So they hand duplicated and they made a mistake. Now it's a vote for Trump and a vote for a write-in, but there is no write-in. Now by law, the ballot has to be counted by the machine. They don't know that they made the mistake. If they knew they made the mistake, they would have done it again and just been a vote for Trump. And then it goes in the machine and the machine counts it, as it accurately would if it were an actual overvote, as an overvote. So where it should have been 1 vote for Trump, it was 0 votes for Trump and 0 votes for Biden. That's what happened.
Okay, because that adjudication team accidentally counted it as a vote for Trump and a vote for a write-in, and then that couldn't be counted.
Yeah, and Senator, it's not an adjudication team; it's a board duplication ballot duplication board.
Board.
Terms,
okay,
right.
Tell me that again.
It's a ballot duplication board.
Right, but what they're doing though is determining the intent. That board though is determining the intent of the voter. Okay, then voting that what's called clean ballot and then feeding it into the system so that it's counted.
And technically they don't count it, the machine counts it.
Okay, thank you. And then the machine counts it. Okay.
So you would ask me about that one, and there's one, and others had, different mistakes on it. I saw one that was supposed to be a vote for the Libertarian candidate, and it was duplicated as a vote for the Libertarian candidate, and I can't remember if it was Biden or Trump, and that also went through as an overvote and should not have. There's
Oh, wow.
another that had, somebody had voted and I'm surmising, I don't know, but trying to correct it, made a bunch of holes in the oval and then made another vote. And then when you duplicated that, the duplicating board wouldn't know it, but it was read by the machine as an overvote.
Okay.
That ballot should have been spoiled. And so there were a total of 9.
Okay.
Any further questions, Senator?
Please just.
No, learning a lot. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's.
That's
so
why we're
bored.
here. Shall we go
Liddy's a giver. All right, Mr. Liddy, please continue.
Okay, and then the next slide I have is, did I do this one? Ward v. Jackson? Oh, I'm sorry. Same case, Ward v. Jackson. This went up to the Arizona Supreme Court. It was appealed. And the plaintiffs asked the court to reverse the lower court's judgment and remand the case back down to the Superior Court to allow for continued inspection of ballots, which would be a larger sample size. Remember, we started with 100, and I don't think anybody was happy with that. Too small. It's not a statistically significant sample. 100 out of 27,869. We went to 1,626, and that is a statistically significant sample. The court found that the challenge fails to present any evidence of misconduct, illegal votes, or that the Biden electors did not, in fact, receive the highest number of votes in office. And those 3 things were required by the law in order for the plaintiff to prevail, let alone establish any degree of fraud or a sufficient error rate that would undermine the certainty of the election results. That was the finding unanimously by the Arizona Supreme Court. And I would just remind this committee that was examining that total universe of 27,869 ballots that were duplicated. That's not all 2.1 million ballots.
Okay.
That case is currently on appeal in the United States Supreme Court. And next, we go to Bauer versus Ducey and Hobbs. So this is a lawsuit that was brought by the slate of Republican electors against the governor and against the Secretary of State. And all of the allegations, or the vast majority of the allegations, were about problems, alleged problems, allegations on the internet, what have you, about Maricopa County. So we moved to intervene because, of course, with Mr. Jarrett and the board, we're the ones that have the knowledge of the evidence that the court would need to adjudicate that. So our motion to intervene was permitted. We got into the case, and I mean, this was a federal case. This is the only one that was in the federal court. So the federal district judge ordered us, which is not unusual, happens in every federal case, to get together. And under Rule 26, there's a broad discovery, and we have to start sharing information. This, Perry Mason stuff with a surprise at the last minute, that doesn't happen. That's not real. What's real is that the court's order and the Supreme Court has propounded rules that require lawyers to cooperate and share evidence. So what was really interesting about this case is it was based largely on the claims of an unknown witness. And the witness, in discovery, you have to give the names of your witnesses, and you have to give a witness list, and you have to say what they're going to say. And what we were told by the plaintiffs was that they weren't going to give us the name of one of the witnesses, but they would refer to him by the nom de guerre Spider. Wow, that's pretty intriguing, Spider, huh? That's pretty cool, except we, according to the rules of civil procedure, we have a due process right to know this guy's real name. So we actually got kind of contested there. They didn't want to give us the name, but the allegation was that Spider was a military intelligence expert, and that he had looked at the operations, presumably inside Maricopa County, because that's what the lawsuit was about, and he had found all kinds of problems. So I told opposing counsel, we couldn't keep his name under seal, but we got to know who this guy is, because we got to look at his background to find out the veracity of what he's saying. We have to be able to cross-examine this guy, find out, present evidence to the court to weigh his credibility. Well, they wouldn't give us the name, and we weren't too happy about that. We complained about that with the judge and filed a motion to dismiss. Well, it turns out after the fact, and this is actually significant because this claim, we prevailed on this claim as well. But this is also up in the Supreme Court. And turns out that Spider is Joshua Merritt. And Joshua Merritt was a soldier in the United States Army, but he was not a military intelligence expert. He was a four-wheeled vehicle mechanic at an Army base down in Texas. And he had deployed, served his country honorably.
So I think it's really telling what he just said there. He said, we prevailed in this one as well. And so we don't have Maricopa County election officials and their board really and truly trying to get to the bottom of this. If they were a disinterested party, right? Like this case was Bauer versus Ducey, okay? Not Bauer versus the elections board. So the fact that he's saying we prevailed, he's choosing a side to say, we don't want to get to the bottom of anything. We don't want to listen to witnesses. We are going to only rely on the court's decisions. We are not going to do our own investigation. We are not going to take our hands off and say, listen, whatever, you guys want to see happen, we're behind whatever. They're literally making a stance to say, we don't want to hear the truth. We don't want to get to the bottom of the truth. And we are going to stand by and defend our election process because we don't care about those that have cast their votes. We don't care about their concerns. Over half of Arizona, like these senators are saying, are crying out like blood-curdling screams of this was wrong. We're trying to tell that to you, and you and your legal people are sitting here saying, no, nothing to see here, nothing wrong. We don't believe you. We don't want to hear your stories. This is a very, very biased election board, which we shouldn't expect anything less than that coming out of Maricopa County at all. This is not a surprise, but it's also very, very, very telling. Like I said, I'm going to wait here until Leah gets back. We'll do a round off on all of this and probably sign off, and I'll continue to monitor it and listen to it. And if anything comes, maybe we'll bring you a show tonight or a small little show on updates. But so far, today has been a huge day, which we've been able to bring you live about the evidence coming out of Antrim County, the electors casting their votes. In Georgia, they are going to do an audit. And in Wisconsin, the Supreme Court has ruled that those indefinitely confined voters that aren't actually confined, those votes can't count. Big day, massive day.
Out in the Twitter sphere that our chairman, Mr. Hibbin, referred to Bill Gates. And that, of course, is Bill Gates' supervisor.
Aha, there's the Bill Gates answer.
Maricopa County Board of Supervisors, and a fine lawyer in his own right, and an individual who ably served on the Phoenix City Council. It is not billionaire Bill Gates who's trying to buy favor in Maricopa County. That is of great concern over the past couple of hours on Twitter.
Yes, and so I appreciate that clarification. That's for those of us who knew who he is, we just know. But I can see if they don't know that absolutely they would confuse it with.
Yes, Mr. Chair, it's an Arizona thing.
Yes. Okay. I don't even related.
Glad they answered that.
So I appreciate that. Mr. Liddy, do you have anything else? I think that you've kind of laid out the foundation here for your position in defending the county. I would say that with some success. And I guess my question would be, do you have any sites or any lawsuits that where the plaintiff has prevailed against the county or against the state?
No, Your Honor. We have been busy taking on all comers, and we are 8-0, and the court's still ours. I don't mean the court. I mean the basketball court. Winner gets the next game. We are undefeated, and we're. It's because our clients are so good. They did a great job trying to follow the rules that you set out. I do have one more slide. I'll flip to the last slide that I do want to share with you, Chairman. for
Only one more.
This slide, and the data supporting it is up above, shows the Maricopa County election reports on the night of Election Day. That's November 3rd, 2020. The first one starting a little after the polls closed at 7. The first report was shortly after 8 p.m. And then there's another one late on the night, and then a couple more deep into the morning. I think up to 1, it says up there on the left, 9:45 p.m. I've got on this chart, 10:50, 11:30, then 1:57 a.m. You'll see there entry number 7. And as you'll see, this graph, which we've made, it tracks the lead that Biden had going into election night. And as ballots came in, Trump's voters vastly outperformed Biden's voters. And so there is a lot of criticism, a lot of complaint, a lot of commentary out throughout the country, if not the world, that there were Biden votes being injected in the middle of the night that allowed Biden to overtake the lead. Well, not here, not in Maricopa County. It was Donald J. Trump that kicked butt on election night, and all those votes started coming in. And you can see how Biden's lead just dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped. And I wanted to show you that, to show that all the allegations to the contrary are false.
Appreciate that chart and that graph. How many cases do you have outstanding? Did you say 2?
Well, if there are 3, Mr. Chairman, there are 2, which I just mentioned, that are at the United States Supreme Court, and there is one kind of an outlier, if you will. What we believe is a resident of Gilbert filed a court in Pinal County. And what that really is a copy and paste job of the federal court that I mentioned earlier. The federal claim that I mentioned earlier was Spider, and that's out there in Pinal County, and we
now know she's there.
okay, and she has moved from Gilbert to Pinal, so she is a resident of Pinal, and we argued a motion to dismiss today, or is it 3 o'clock yet? No, we'll be arguing that in about an hour and 15 minutes, and we're confident of that as well, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And then at least one of the lawsuits that's being heard at the Supreme Court, the remedy that they're requesting, is that a forensic audit?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that is correct. It's a bit ironic that one of the reasons why our board cannot go forward with a forensic audit is because the litigation is still ongoing. And one of those pieces of litigation is asking in part for a forensic audit. But we believe that while the conduct of the election is ongoing, and we believe it starts when Maricopa County has to design the ballot style for the election. That would be in late August. And then when the machines are certified, federally certified and state certified, we're hands off. We can't touch any of that stuff. And then we follow Title 16, the rules for the election given to us by the legislature under that awesome constitutional power, by the book, up until the election's over. And the election's over after canvass and certification, and then the exhaustion of the contest period, which for this election, the certification by the state, I believe, was November 30th. And the statute allows for 5 days. So the contest, anybody want to file a contest had to do that by the 5th of December. And then any litigation with regard to those, once it is exhausted, our belief is that the election is over, and then the Board of Supervisors will have much more liberty to examine its machines on its own outside the constrictions of Title 16.
But there's still a real possibility that additional litigation could arise. Is that fair?
Well, I think it's a possibility. Somebody can sue anytime, but I think it's unrealistic to think any would be successful because the legislature provided for contests, and contests must be filed between the certification and 5 days, and the 5-day time has elapsed. So we believe we're going to be near the end of this election very soon, depending on, knock on wood, what goes on with the Supreme Court.
But you could have additional federal claims that are made, which then would, in your opinion, I'm just going by what you've talked about, which is you feel like you're frozen in regards to some kind of an audit or a forensic audit because of the ongoing litigation. So if there is new litigation that's filed, then you would be frozen until that was somehow adjudicated. Is that correct?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would say this, that it's very difficult for the federal court to get jurisdiction over the election in Arizona and the election in as it was carried out in Maricopa County. The place for that would be state court, and there's ample support for that in the law. And so I think that if there were to be a federal case and someone were to charge a deprivation of civil rights, it may go forward and we could be frozen. But I think it's most likely that those cases would not be taken by the federal court, as there's ample support that it should be in state court, and the contest period is closed. So although it is possible, I will concede with you, Mr. Chairman, it is possible, I would say it's unlikely.
And I think that's probably fair. So what's the timeline that you anticipate for these that are currently in process, the ongoing litigation?
Mr. Chairman, I don't want to jinx anything. So if you can read my mind, but I don't want to say it out loud, but it would not surprise me if by the end of the week.
Amongst friends, Tom.
Finished.
Okay.
I would think that the United States Supreme Court would be highly motivated to resolve the two Arizona issues before it rapidly.
Okay. We have two senators would like to ask questions. So Senator Gray, we'll go to you first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Liddy, I appreciate your decades of election experience. So I'm going to throw this at you, and it's just out of a curiosity for me. But let's say over the next couple of days, the court cases get cleared off, and then the county does do a forensic audit and finds a malfunction or a compromise in the software. And again, this is just a question. Is there any recourse if it were to be proven that this election had been tampered with? What would be the outcome or consequences of that?
Well, of course, I can't predict, what might happen in the future, specifically with a hypothetical, but I think, again, what we would do is we would stick to the laws of Arizona if that were found to happen in Arizona. Obviously, that would be very valuable information if it were to come forward, valuable for the Board of Supervisors, valuable for the reporter, extremely valuable to the legislature of Arizona. But whether somebody would want to take I think the only avenue that I can think of off the top of my head was at the end of the day, as the Electoral College vote, which occurred earlier today, is tabulated and then received by the United States Congress. If one could make a showing before the United States Congress that the tabulation is incorrect and persuade the Congress, the United States Congress may choose to do something about it, but I wouldn't bet the farm on it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Genti-Rita. You're on mute. Can you unmute?
All right. Am I unmuted?
There you go.
Yay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the only thing prohibiting at this point a independent forensic audit is that there's ongoing litigation. Mr. Liddy.
That is the only thing that I think is prohibiting the Board of Supervisors. That yes, because ongoing litigation related to this election that was filed within the contest period means this election's ongoing, and we don't want to be accused of tampering with the evidence. The litigation is about what's in the machines, and if the Supreme Court were to say, okay, we're going to remand this back to the federal court in Arizona, and we want you to order a forensic audit of those machines, I don't want my client to be in a position to say, oh, we already did it, and now we can't do it, because you can't go back in time. We can't do that. So we have to wait for this litigation to be over for that. Once it's over and the election in its entirety is over And then the board has much more freedom to look at its equipment in a manner that would, someone could accuse them of spoiling evidence. The evidence would be gone. But I do want to mention this. The statute does, the state legislature has demanded that every county keep all the ballots for 24 months and keep the cartridges, which have the tallies, for 24 months. Obviously, that 24 months far exceeds the 5-day contest period or any alleged litigation. So I think it's a fair inference that the legislature intended to, at least in some form or another, to have access to that which they demanded be preserved by each county. So that's just another point I wanted to make.
Oh, okay. So it's your legal advice that a forensic audit not take place until the current litigation is somehow resolved. It's
First
not
of all,
it says it anywhere. That's just your lawyerly opinion to the Board of Supervisors.
First of all, I want to make clear that, Mr. Chairman and Senator Genti-Rita, that I would never presume to give legal advice to the legislature. You are ably represented by some of the finest attorneys in the state. And if you're asking me what my legal advice would be to my clients, the answer is I will not provide that information to you.
Okay, no, you are. That's okay because you already did. You advised them not to go forward with an independent third-party forensic audit until all of the current lawsuits are either adjudicated or finalized or dropped. So I already got your legal opinion. That's fine. I just wanted to.
I can neither confirm nor deny that that was the legal advice that I gave to my client.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good. Okay, and so, all right, I got that. I do want to just make sure, I just want to comment here because you've said a couple of times the Board of Supervisors are just following the law, that they're at the whim of the statutory construction of Title 16. I do think it's important to note that we have, and you know this, but just for those that are watching, that we have a process down at the legislature that we utilize to change or modify the law. And of course, that includes not just welcoming the public to participate, but political subdivisions like yourself or the Board of Supervisors. And regularly, they do come down to register for and against bills, many of them election bills that would change Title 16 and thus change their responsibility in the management of our elections. So they're not kind of this party that sits by and then has to respond. They are actively either promoting changes and or stopping changes from happening in the legislative process as it relates to the management of elections. So they're willing participants. And I think that's important because I do think that many of the issues that we have seen in this last election, 2020, and in subsequent elections in 18 and 16 could have been mitigated and reduced if we had, frankly, a county board of supervisors that was more willing to take a proactive approach. We talked about intergovernmental agreements. That was something that I brought to the counties, and most people said it didn't exist until I had to show documentation. And then even then, it wasn't enough to get the counties to kind of be proactive and maybe looking at it and revoting on whether that relationship was relevant anymore and if it needed modification. So, you know, if we're going to have election integrity and we're going to have voter confidence, we have to make sure we're thinking 2-3 steps ahead and we're not just constantly responding to the state of current affairs. So in that light, the vast majority of people vote by mail. I don't see a lot of proposals coming from the counties to deal and address voting by mail. In fact, what I see is the counties wanting to push vote by mail. And the bill that they like the most is to allow counties to go to all mail elections. And we've seen that most people have concerns with vote by mail. In fact, most of the problems that we've talked about relate to vote by mail. And I know these aren't specific to the litigation, but they are specific to, again, voter integrity and making sure people have confidence and want to participate. And so I do think that I wanted to be on the record with that, because it's going to take a partnership to fix some of these things. And while I appreciate us reacting to what has transpired, I think we should also, in tandem to that, look at trying to be prophylactic and identify measures that could prevent instances where either there's undue influence, tampering, election fraud, or a lack of confidence. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, for the time.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Senator Gentilrita, first of all those bills that you mentioned, Maricopa County has not been up there advocating for them. When you said they, and perhaps you're talking about other counties, but it was not Maricopa County doing that. And I want to make absolutely clear that I have been through Title 16, and there are no whims. Maricopa County doesn't do anything following the whims of Title 16. There's a lot of shalls. There's a lot of musts. The legislature writes the law, we follow the law. We're not just doing it on a whim. We are deliberately, with great deliberation, following the law as provided to us by the legislature. Nothing on a whim, not just following. It is our legal obligation to follow the law, and that's what we're doing. And the mere presence of the chairman of the Board of Supervisors in this hearing today, as is the availability of our elections director, and my somewhat unusual presentation, as I'm not a fact witness, I'm an attorney for the county. I'm here because my client, the chairman of the Board of Supervisors, has asked me throughout the week and now and in the future to work with your future committee and with this committee to do whatever we can to help facilitate the gathering of all the information you need in order to make the choices of whether you want to make changes to Title 16. But certainly we don't do anything on a whim.
Mr. Liddy, I didn't say that. I said you kind of presented it like you were at the whim of our statutory construction. In other words, that
I did not.
You were a participant in the making of that. And I think it's important for the public to realize you are. You have contract lobbyists at the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars that you pay for to come in and advocate against proposals and for proposals, but primarily as it relates to election law, against them. And you have in-house lobbyists, and you have, of course, attorneys. So you are a part of the construction of Title 16, and that's what my comment was referencing. And I do believe when it did come to updating our permanent early voting list, that the Arizona Association of Counties was opposed, along with the Secretary of State's office and the Maricopa County Recorder's
I don't
office.
represent them. I don't know anything about them.
You represent the county.
I will tell you, Mr. Chairman, Senator, if I said anything with my vocabulary, my diction, my body language that led you to believe that my client follows Title 16 on some whim, I humbly apologize. I want to declare for all the world to hear, no, we don't. We deliberately follow the law of Title 16. That's what we do. The power is with the legislature, according to the United States Constitution. And to the extent that the 4.7 million people that reside in Maricopa County and are represented in part by the members of the Board of Supervisors.
I do have another bit of good news to share. We're going to hopefully wait till this guy is done.
Obviously,
he should be close to being done.
Has a right to have his or her voice be heard in the legislature. But at the end of the day, it's the Arizona legislature that writes the law, Maricopa County. We follow it, but not on a whim.
Excellent. I'm glad you said that, because I'll certainly be quoting that in committee.
Yeah,
we write the law.
Mr. Liddy, I think Maricopa County has a greater presence before the legislature than you can imagine, through various avenues, including the Association of Counties, which regularly stands before my committee and testifies that they represent all 15 counties, which would include Maricopa. So if they're doing things that you're not aware of, Mr. Chairman, I suggest that maybe you need to look a little closer into what is being said on your behalf.
There you go.
So
Can
Chairman,
Chairman?
Chairman
Here
Hickman.
comes the chairman guy.
Yes, there are associations that some of us belong to. ACO is an association that works with all the other electeds. County Supervisors Association is the association that my board members are involved with. And quite often, we try to work with their association, but there's also times when the County Supervisors Association takes a different approach or a different tack to pending litigation, especially when it comes to budgetary authority issues and the things that we are involved in. So I understand that ACO sees you a lot, and Senator Jenny Rita, I understand that. But please know that when there is something important to the county supervisors, you'll probably get a visit from the County Supervisors Association of all 15 counties. But when there's also something very important to Maricopa County, being the largest county, that's why you get to see Supervisor Gates, Supervisor Bill Gates, Supervisor Sellers, Supervisor Hickman, Supervisor Gallardo, and Supervisor Chukri. All of us represent individual districts of this beautiful county. And one other key approach, a key thing for your legislature and your body to remember, when it comes to public statements, when it comes to strategies out there, when it comes to county supervisors that want to do something, understand that we do not have the ability to caucus. We have open meeting law. We do not caucus. So that's why it's upsetting at times for all 5 of us to stand by and be mute, it seems, when something of such import that we are discussing right now, the confidence and integrity of the election, we have to get through litigation to see what the court proves as being innocent or guilty, and we have to go from there. So I just thought I'd make that statement for all 5 of us, because it's very hard right now to watch Twitter, to try our best to talk to our legislators in our districts, to tell how important this is without it making look like we're building some sort of vote.
Yeah, we understand, and we appreciate the time, but again, we understand the constraints that exist with open meeting laws. We understand the constraints that exist with the board. But again, I will reiterate that Maricopa County, as a member of the broader coalition of counties in Arizona, has a fairly robust voice, or at least is represented as having a fairly robust voice at the legislature on a very regular basis. So if they're not representing Maricopa County, then I recommend that you rethink your association with them and come down and visit us, and we're happy to see you.
Chairman Farnsworth, I think that you understand that it's important to me because Senator Rick Gray talked about one phone call at 5:30 in the morning. He's not talking about all of the phone calls and neither is Ben Toma, neither is Joanne Osborne, so neither is Sina Kerr. They've been in direct contact with me. They've been involved in meetings that I've talked with constituents that have real concerns. Voters have extreme concerns. I just want to let you know, and your august body, as what our legal counsel calls you, because you are, that we want to work together when it comes to transparency and confidence in this election. And we want to work together. And I'm in front of you, and I brought my experts to the best ability that I could to be able to talk to you and your committee and to the upcoming chairman, Senator Eugenia Rita. And I just want to let everyone know we are going to work together in the space provided by you, the legislators of the state of Arizona.
And we appreciate your willingness to do so. Okay, Mr. Leach, do you have questions?
I have a comment. This will come up next session, but I want to say it because I don't want it lost in them. And when we hear from Josh Credit, I will remind everybody of the move that Mr. Fontes of Maricopa County was going to do in sending out ballots to everybody. And so that doesn't need to be discussed here. We can discuss it with
Does
Mr.
no
Credit
one
and the
realize this thing
actions
is
that we're
still
taking
here
thereof.
unnecessarily?
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Liddy, do you have anything else? We do have some other witnesses we need to hear from, so.
Mr. Chairman, only to thank you
Do we actually have
and your committee for
witnesses?
allowing me to present to your
If we're gonna have
committee,
witnesses, I'm gonna tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna start a whole separate stream.
We appreciate your time and your presentation.
Let's
So,
hear
thank
who's
you.
coming in a minute.
Members, any final questions for Mr. Liddy?
Who are your
Hearing none?
witnesses?
Okay, thank you very much. I don't think we have anything else for the county. If you can stick around, that's great. We may have some questions.
No, we
If
don't
not,
have any more questions for the county.
It's already been a fairly long day.
I would say.
So I think we're going to move on, and we have a couple of people here from the Attorney General's office. Josh Credit is here. Josh, there you are.
No.
So,
Need to hear from the Attorney General.
Josh, we appreciate you being here, and we'd like to hear from you,
Okay.
kind of in the same vein that we did the Maricopa County.
Here's the deal. Here's the deal. Leah is here. Leah's in the house. We are not going to finish this thing. Okay? We're just not going to do it. But I have good news. I've been holding like I have to pee kind of thing. Not that I have to pee. I've been holding it in, right? Are you ready? Ready. Wisconsin signed their slate of electors.
The Republicans did. So, from what I understand, the reason why a lot of these Republicans electors are signing their slate of electors is because today is the only day you can send your electors. You can't send them later. If you send them,
send them,
and then things get.
We have precedent already. It's happened 4 other times, and most notably, or the one that most people are quoting, is the 1961 with Richard Nixon in Hawaii against JFK.
Mm-hmm.
So, Angie, we already did. We watched it an hour ago live.
The signing of Nevada.
The signing of Nevada. We did, and we sang. Now, for
really
your
good
own
song.
hilarity, are you ready for this? You're not ready. In Michigan, they sung the national anthem when they signed their electors for Joe Biden, and they sung the very serious Black national anthem as well. So, just so you know, there are 2 national anthems in the United States that you have to sing in order to be woke. And that's the Black national anthem and the national
How did that go?
anthem.
Nobody knew it.
They had singers on a screen. You know what I'm saying? Ellen says, Michelle,
It's not a national anthem if you're picking just a race.
right, it's a race anthem. And it actually just promotes
It's called
racism.
a segregated anthem.
Exactly. And it actually comes from condescendingness, like, you Black people get to have your own vote, and we'll have your own national anthem, and we'll have our own national anthem, because you can't be part of our national anthem. Ellen says, Michelle, President Trump's going to pardon Assange.
That we have not had confirmation on that. I appreciate you putting that in there, Alan. That is Mark Burns, Pastor Mark Burns, put that out there. People are like, I hope this is true.
We have to wait for confirmation.
The White House so far has said that
on...
White House officials have said, well, what's in the works? Maybe we're talking about it, but nothing concrete.
So have you seen this video?
No, what is it?
This is going everywhere. We showed it to our people. This is the electors for Michigan trying to get in where they were singing the Black national anthem to cast their votes. They had their papers, and Governor Whitmer had cops there not letting them in. Now, other people have been tweeting out that it wasn't just the cops, that somehow the GOP was behind it as well, keeping the electors out from casting their votes. But they did sign the votes, but they weren't allowed in. They were kept out by the police to cast their votes. So everyone is sharing that. Here they are with the Black national anthem.
Can they see it?
They can't see this right now. No.
Okay.
So breaking: Senate Intelligence Chairman Marco Rubio announces that he plans to hold a public hearing on Fang and Chinese espionage as soon as possible in the new year. So, yeah.
Wow. I was hearing rumors. I thought it was legislatures that were being kept out of the Michigan House. I didn't know the electors were being kept out.
The electors to cast their vote for Trump. Now, the good news is...
How did you figure all this all out while you're doing the show?
I was monitoring Twitter while listening. Because I can do that now because I have a new system, thanks to Ann. And other donations from you guys. But we are looking at right now, without Wisconsin, we were looking at 274 of President Trump having these votes, okay? Biden stays at his number, okay? But Trump at least makes it to 274 for these contested states. When you add Wisconsin's slated electors for a contested election, you put him up at 285. Or 285.
This is fun.
So yeah, it's been a massive day.
Somebody had said this is going to be a chaotic 48 hours. A chaotic 48 hours.
Now, Joe Biden is set to do a speech tonight at 7:30. I kind of think that Trump should do his own. Like, look, I won.
Ali Alexander says, are we living up to the hype 15 hours later? But wait, there's more, because he's the one who said it's going to be a wild 48 hours. CJ Pearson said, to tell you guys, the reason you cast your electors is that then you have standing.
Exactly.
So if you're going to be doing any sort of legal challenges as an elector, then you have standing to go before even, the state courts and the federal courts and everything like that. So especially with the Wisconsin, the electors are already there. They can go for Trump. My spirit has always said that Georgia and Wisconsin would go red, and that Arizona would go red. I don't know if Arizona's electors were cast, but Arizona has I don't even know if they cast any electors today, or if they're just sending 2 slates of electors.
Well, apparently they were meeting here today to kind of discuss that. I don't know, how it actually, I don't know. I'm really confused about today's hearing. I'm just so at a loss. And this is what I was telling our viewers. And I don't think you have an answer for it either, but I'm going to pose you the question anyway. Okay?
Did Pennsylvania send their electors?
Pennsylvania sent their electors for Trump.
They did too?
Yeah, so that's how we get at 274.
And Michigan's trying to, but
Michigan is trying to. The only ones that have, we have officially Georgia, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Gateway Pundit is now saying Wisconsin. Okay. That leaves us still with Michigan and Arizona. We are not sure about their electors.
Well, but they're trying to.
Michigan is trying to, and we don't know about Arizona. But anyway,
how can the governor do that?
It wasn't just the governor. Rumors on Twitter are that it wasn't just the governor. The actual GOP was behind getting the cops to keep them from coming in. But they signed their papers, okay? And they were trying to. They even said to the police, "Can you at least take these papers inside?" And he refused. And he was asked, "Can I speak to your sergeant?" And anyway, you had been watching. What was it? Was it Finkham? Whoever it was that was trying to get. Is Finkham here in Arizona? Mm-hmm. Who was trying to get this hearing to happen?
Yeah.
And it was such a big deal to get it to happen. This is what I said to our viewers. Mm-hmm. I was ready for a huge day, because if it was just going to be a whole day worth of excuses, why was it so hard to get it to happen?
I know.
What's the point? Why were they fighting so hard? The only thing that I can think is that at the end of the day, they are going to make some sort of decision. Mm. I'm at a loss. I'm not trying to say that today was a loss, but I kind of feel like I hyped it up to be a pretty big deal. When I was sharing it everywhere, today's going to be huge, big day. And then it was a giant flop.
I don't think it was a flop.
Pretty much a flop.
No, it's never a flop. It's never a flop when these things are happening.
When I say a flop, I mean...
It's a flop as in not fun to watch.
Right.
But does it move the needle? Yeah, the Republican Senate had to have these hearings, right? Because they had the open hearing with the witnesses. So then they have to take it and they have to weigh what's happening and what they're saying to make, legislative decisions. The one thing I was able to catch was very important. The last lady there who said, so wait a minute. She was getting the runaround. We can't. That lawyer lied.
Yeah.
Under oath to everyone on that board.
Well, he wasn't under oath.
I thought it was a judicial hearing. I thought it was under oath.
None of these hearings are ever under oath.
Well, I thought it was. So he lied. And he kept saying, the board cannot do an audit, a forensic audit, until the litigation is over. He said it like 20 times. And she's like, so wait a minute. Are you saying that you counseled them or that they literally can't do it?
Right.
And that's when he started to get all lawyer speaky, but we just heard you say that they can't do it. So that was what you told them. So he lied and lied and lied. I'd throw that guy to the curb.
Oh, yeah.
And so what that does to the Republicans is realize this guy is lying to me.
Yeah.
They can do a forensic audit whenever they want, but their excuse is, well, it would open us up for litigation because it might look like we're tampering with them, but it wouldn't open you up for any sort of litigation if it was an independent forensic audit.
Right.
No, if you took your Democrats in there, right, and if it was somebody who the Republicans and the Democrats decided on, you certainly can do the forensic audit. They're trying to run out the clock because they they know that something is on those computers.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, to round off today, because what we're going to do is we're going to sign off. If anything happens, if it's big, we'll do a whole big stream and I'll pull it up and everything like that. If it's kind of just big, we'll just do one on my cell phone. Okay. As far as the rest of the day goes, because Arizona right now is on a 2-hour leg. It's only 2:20 there. They got all day. They can just keep going at this thing. But they only took a break for like 5 minutes for that lawyer guy to pee. The rest of them, I don't think have taken a break. Mm-hmm. But they're on Zoom so they can get up and go potty whenever they want. But to round off today, once again, in Georgia, Governor Kemp has finally ordered an audit. I don't know what it's supposed to be, a forensic audit of some sort, or signature matching. I think it's a signature matching audit in Georgia. It's kind of too little too late, but it's something. In Wisconsin, we have the Supreme Court saying,
the state Supreme Court
saying, if you voted via indefinitely confined status and you are not indefinitely confined, your vote will not count. So we're going to have to wait and see how that moves forward.
Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger says Georgia will conduct a signature audit in Cobb County.
In Cobb County. Results to be released in 2 weeks.
What about Fulton County?
I have no idea. Next, we have Wisconsin, Georgia. I'm going to use my fingers. Wisconsin, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Nevada casting their slate of electors for President Trump and Mike Pence, in addition to Michigan attempting to do the same. We're still waiting on Arizona.
Arizona has now sent dueling GOP slate. We now have 53 disputed votes.
Nice. Okay. So the only state that has not sent their electors is Michigan. And that's because it was election interference and kept from doing so.
The day isn't over yet.
This is crazy.
The day isn't over.
No, I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm just saying the very attempt to keep it from happening. I think it'll be official. I think they'll get sent. They signed their documents. Okay, whether it actually made it inside of the House and all of that, I don't think that really matters. They signed their official papers. I think that so I think that that's huge. Okay, but I am curious.
Sandra Fairbanks says, I actually don't know how anyone isn't radicalized at this point when she's seeing them keeping the electors out.
Oh yeah.
And she's like, my thoughts scare me. what kind of 1776 we want to pull?
So here's what I don't know, and I wish that I did, and I'm sorry for being a political commentary host and not knowing. But the only reason it got brought up in my mind is them saying that it was the GOP that was also participating in keeping them out.
What we have here, fellow citizens, is a contested election.
I retweeted that out from RSBN.
On Reasons Chicks?
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's my question. if the Republican House and Senate don't send the slate of electors, who does? Am I making any sense here? Like,
yeah, this
are the slate of electors just their own body?
I think
because they have like a committee.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I know the process of which you have to become one. Okay, that is not under question here. I'm just saying, like, if the GOP in Michigan is not wanting to send them, do they even have that control to, you know what I'm saying? I don't think so.
Election. No. They're once you seat an elector, once you've chosen an elector,
that's it. The elector is the elector.
So they can actually go rogue too.
Yeah.
And you did see that 2 or 3 go rogue. And certain states have different
laws on that.
But if they're Republican slate, they can sign and send them in. So I love this from Rose McGowan, and I'm going to bleep, but she says, "Dear Donald Trump, please consider being punk as blank. You will make history if you pardon Assange, Edward Snowden, and any whistleblower wrongly prosecuted. DC cult leaders, aka politicians, hate truth. Burn them down." And she says on their way out, but I say on your way in. And I said, I just tweeted out and I said, pardon the language and pardon Assange.
That's good. All right, let's go ahead and go. Twitter is a constantly evolving thing. We could stay here all day long and just continue to give you the latest updates from Twitter.
This is the 24 hour. This is the 24 hours from now. So it was like 48 hours yesterday that will get the ball is rolling.
Yes.
So we're not getting the ball rolling.
Oh my gosh, I forgot the biggest thing. I was still on my list. What was the biggest thing that came out today? Antrim County's Dominion evidence.
Yeah.
That's massive.
That means
I wish we had just done a show just on that today. Honestly, because that's huge. So maybe tomorrow
YouTube,
we will.
I know is going to be so happy with the way this Arizona hearing went.
They shouldn't censor this video.
You got all kinds of great information.
During early voting.
Is this a girl? Is she good?
I don't know. Investigating the issue, but within days of the first complaint, Maricopa County released a video explaining that the new tabulators can read ballots even with bleed-through, and that Sharpies were now recommended by the equipment manufacturer. Based on the official response, we forwarded the Maricopa for their records and closed those pre-election complaints with the complainants. On election day, the unit received more Sharpie-related complaints. According to interviews that I personally conducted with election day witnesses, the ballot tabulation machines were not alleged to be rejecting the ballots based on those election day reports. In the days following the election, we received over 1,200 Sharpie-related complaints. More than 1,000 of those were generalized concerns about having to use a Sharpie, but failed to allege specific problems related to their use.
We gotta go.
Okay.
However, about 60 of the complaints alleged their ballot was rejected and either placed in that slot 3 or for later tabulation, or that they or the poll worker pressed the green button to force the defective ballot to be cast. Accordingly, on November 4th, we requested a formal explanation from the Maricopa County Elections Department regarding the use of Sharpies. Based on the county's response and subsequent court testimony, the unit is satisfied the Sharpies did not cause widespread disenfranchisement. Regardless, Arizona law is silent as to writing instruments, the use of double-sided ballots, and bleed-through. As just kind of an aside, while Title 16 provides civil enforcement tools for campaign finance issues, including civil subpoenas, the legislature has not provided specific civil remedies or tools elsewhere in Title 16, leaving our office primarily with criminal remedies. This is especially true.
Okay, so she was saying about 60 people had problems with the Sharpies.
Okay. Listen, I'm going to continue to monitor this, and I'll tell you what we'll do. If anything else comes out and it seems like they're going to be bringing in like a slew of witnesses, I will come back and we'll start another stream. Okay? I promise you that. But if they aren't going to do that and we're just going to listen to a whole host of excuses, I think that we can better serve our time for the rest of the day.
We can.
But I want you guys to walk away from this feeling really, really awesome about today. The fact that these,
I want you to feel awesome. Today was a breakthrough
every
day.
single,
well, here's the thing.
Every single state attempted to cast their electors.
Here's the thing. The electors are people chosen from within the party who are loyal to the party. And they're more loyal than the legislature and the governor and the secretary of state.
Yeah.
And the pressure on Georgia now, they would probably try to make that audit of the signatures go out as long as they can. And just go walk it real slow. Right? Because they want it to, they don't want the results out of the signature audit. So you can do a lot of things, but number one is just pray that the truth comes out and that the right people are in charge of this signature audit. You know, it was the same thing that happened with the ballot checking in Wisconsin. You had Bob, the bobsled. Okay. And because of Bob, we now have Wisconsin, basically. Because if they do that right, we have Wisconsin. If they do it right. Now, do I have faith that they'll do it right? I do. Why? Because God told me that Wisconsin was going to go for Trump. And because it's unthinkable at this point that you're going to go find 150 or 60,000 indefinitely confined people who just became disabled overnight just this year.
Right.
Okay. So you're going to have to fake their disability. And this is the way I was telling this to Kansas. So our uncle, he is disabled. Okay. He doesn't get out on his own and he cannot drive. But in Ohio, he has to have a license or an identification to get an absentee ballot. Okay. What we were seeing in Wisconsin is these indefinitely confined people are supposed to be so indefinitely confined that they can never, ever, 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 ever leave their home to go get an identification.
Right.
So if they have ever left their home, besides going straight to the hospital and back, then they are not indefinitely confined. If they go to the doctors, then they can go and get an ID. Okay, this is a very small, small carve out for people who cannot leave their homes, who are permanently disabled.
Right.
So the fact that the clerk told people, if you don't have an ID, just claim that you're indefinitely confined.
Yep.
And she's put it this way: not if you don't want to show one. If you don't want to show an identification, and that was in the Wisconsin's Supreme Court's decision,
right?
The clerk had no authority to tell people that if you do not want to show your ID, just claim that you're indefinitely confined. Right. Also, that another interesting part of the Wisconsin hearing is there were two radical liberal judges on that. They did not side with Trump. I guess it was a 3-2. I don't know. I guess it was 3-2. And one of them said that the case was racist, and you just want to get your King Trump back in office.
Wow.
What kind of judge says this is a racist case, and you want to get your King Trump in office? There's a white lady. Your King Trump.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
How would you sit on a bench with somebody?
I don't think I could do it. I really don't think.
All right,
I don't know.
we can sign off.
No, we're definitely going to sign off.
Thanks, Michelle, for holding the line here. I didn't watch most of this today. I'm just going to be honest. This was hard. This was a hard thing to go through.
We took a lot of breaks and went other places to Twitter, and we watched the Nevada signing and stuff. So it wasn't a complete wash, and we had a good time together. There
was a lot of you here watching all day, and there were a lot of people watching on Twitter, and there was a lot of people hoping that there would be some bombshells coming out of here.
But we got. I tell you what we did, and let me, and then this. I'm going to end with this.
I want to point out that the unit not only engages in a
it just keeps going.
The actual people asking the questions, like this guy, Farnsworth, I think is his name, they were great. They had excellent questions. They are unwavering.
Okay.
In their stance. We had one guy, I can't remember his name, and he was the only one, really. Maybe Mickey Mouse plate ear lady. She had two plates behind her, made her look like Mickey Mouse. She was sitting in front of 2 stand-up plates, and it was hilarious. But so far, I mean, they are solid in what they want to do moving forward, I think.
They want a forensic audit.
Yeah.
And she caught him. No, you're just not doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
You bunch of
So
liars.
I feel really good. And her name just so happens to be Michelle. Solid name. Great person. So I think she's actually going to be the new chair when he steps down.
there's brave. This is to go. These electors have more bravery than the legislatures. Let me just tell you that. And they just thank them and pray for them. Pray for their safety. Pray that God would fill them with strength. And pray for the Christians right now who don't understand what's happening. And not only that, pray for the a few minor Christian leaders, like not big ones, like I don't even, like the only big one I know is Beth Moore, and she's just telling people that, you know, this is some sort of weird seductive cult. And I just want to point out that why are we doing this? Number one, because Obama spied on Donald Trump.
Now, 8 minutes ago, someone is saying that Arizona joined.
We already did.
Oh, we said that already?
Yeah.
Okay, we're still waiting on Michigan then. That's right. Duh.
So 4 years ago, they set about to have an insurance policy against the incoming president of the United States, because he wasn't deep state. Okay. Georgia, let me save everyone the suspense. Cobb County audit results will show the election was corrupt. U.S. media will dismiss the audit results because the candidate that 95% of journalists want to win appears to have more votes.
Leah, we got to sign off.
Okay.
We can't sign off while looking at Twitter because we'll just keep.
No, but I was going to sum it up why this is important to all the whatever Christian haters out there. Number one, they set up Donald Trump, and they went after him for 3 years on something fake, and they had no reason to go after General Flynn, and they unmasked these General Flynn. They spied on Papadopoulos and Carter just to get a hold of listening in on Donald Trump, try to catch him in something to unseat him. They tried to unseat him from being inaugurated. They were hoping that they could get through and not have Donald Trump inaugurated on the 20th of January in 2017. Okay. They were shocked that he was.
Right.
And so they spent the next 3 years doing the Russia investigation, never doing anything about a platform, never talking to the average person, never trying to even talk about healthcare or anything important. It was always, we hate Trump. We hate Trump. They had no substance, and they ran a weekend with Bernie's. And why? We kept asking ourselves, why don't you try to put forward a good candidate? And even regular Democrats were like, why don't you try to put forward a good candidate? Because they had to have somebody in as a firewall for all the corruption that they had already done. That when it's uncovered, and as it's been uncovered, if we had an honest DOJ, you guys know these people would be in jail, because you cannot do the things that they've done. You think that Republicans are fighting hard for this election? We have over 1,000 witnesses to election
irregularities.
We have 1,000 witnesses in these cases. They had one hearsay witness, and they impeached the president in the House over a transcript that everyone can read. There was nothing untoward in that transcript.
Right.
And they impeached the president, talking about trying to overthrow the will of millions of people. We have to remind ourselves of what they are and who they are and what they're capable of. And why didn't they run a good candidate? Why did Joe Biden say we have the widest election fraud organization in history? Why did he say, I don't need your help to get me elected, I need your help after I'm elected? Why did he say that? We're seeing it play out. We're seeing that Zuckerberg put $4 million. And I haven't posted this on Facebook because I'm sure it will be hidden or taken down or block me. into these Democrat counties and these swing states and in these specific cities, because you only need a handful in these specific cities. Okay.
This guy is totally listening to you very intently right now.
Thank you very much.
Look how much he's paying attention.
So why for somebody to say you don't have any evidence when we know that there was 302 legal lawsuits by the Democrats to make voting by mail less secure and more open for fraud? Now, why would you do that? To put these drop boxes in places where the Constitution in some of these states disallowed that. To backdate ballots. To ship in ballots over state lines. And the biggest thing is to look at those signatures when the machines weren't matching them.
Right.
And when you vote in person and you run your driver's license through, you're that person, okay? I don't know who you are, so your signature is all we have, right? So anyways, you had the people who had backdoor access to register voters into some of these election polls. They're wiping the poll books. And what I told Kansas in Michigan on that Antrim County audit, they wiped them clean.
Mm-hmm.
They wiped the evidence. If you're the FBI and you knock on their door, on the door of a criminal that you're serving a search warrant on, and you see smoke coming out the chimney, they're probably burning documents.
Yep.
And why would they be burning documents? So when you have to prove these criminal cases, a lot of times you have to present a case. So I'm throwing that out there. God, we lift up this day to you. We thank you so much for the victories that we had today. We thank you for the electors and for giving. I pray they feel so good inside. I pray for the legislators and the legislators that they are led by the Holy Spirit and that things get done very, very quickly. I pray that the Antrim County audit sends shockwaves to the entire country, and that every Dominion voting machine or ES&S or whatever, they will all be forensically audited. I pray that we're able to see what happened with Dominion, and I pray that that gets out so that every person, whether they're Democrat or Republican, can see it happening. I pray that the proof and the truth gets out. I pray that you encourage Trump's legal team today, encourage Donald Trump, and I pray that whatever Donald Trump is supposed to do, whether from his presidential seat, whether it's executive orders, or I pray that if there's something the Director of National Security can bring forth, I just pray that every shred of evidence is able to be brought forth, but not just brought forth, is used and in your court. So God, you have convened your court, and now you are dropping down these verdicts. And I pray in Wisconsin right now that the audit of these people who shouldn't be voting the way they should have been voting will go smoothly and righteously and honestly. Just do it honestly. That's all we ask. Just do it honestly. And for those who were not indefinitely confined, I pray that those votes somehow get taken away from the roll. I don't know how that happens, but I pray that you make it happen in a really quick way. And I pray that Michigan's able to get their electors sent, and I pray that we're able to just sit back and say, Donald Trump, do your thing. In Jesus' name, pray, amen.
Amen. And I just want you guys to know that I was taking today very seriously, and I took a lot of notes today while I was sitting here with my Sharpie that does not bleed through to the other side of the paper at all. So
Clarence says, God had to calm me down. This election messed me up. This scares me because our stupid Prime Minister Trudeau wants us to allow mail-in voting for up to 5 million people. Okay, again with the must-have and the did nothing. Stuart, Trump is a president, but he's not God. Okay, we have branches of government. We have 50 states. You are one country. You're like one state. Okay, no offense, but you're small.
You're one state in one country. You can't even get Brexit to happen.
Exactly.
I mean, come on.
Exactly.
But here's why. it's a global.
I'm sorry, wait.
Effort.
You're 3 countries and Wales.
It's a global effort. And I think that the timing of that, of what's happening with Brexit and this, it's all spiritual and it's all coming together. And I'm really excited about it.
I mean, you have MI6 or whatever, but the FBI, the DOJ, and the CIA, they run the world. And so if Trump doesn't have an honest DOJ, there's not much he can do. He just got Daniel Radcliffe in at the Director of National Intelligence. It's having the right people into the right places and understanding who the moles
Well, what
are.
I find really hilarious about the left calling Trump a dictator is that if he was a dictator, then he would be doing exactly what Stewart and everybody else is wanting him to do, is just literally forget all legal stuff, forget all of these departments that are supposed to do the investigations, walk the military to Hillary Clinton's door and arrest her already. Right? That's what everybody's wanting him to do. But the left calls him a dictator, and he doesn't do the very thing that all the rest of us are going, hey, that would be kind of nice, which actually we would be against it because we do need avenues that, you know. But my point is, the very fact that he's not doing the thing that you're wanting him to do proves that he's not the dictator that they say that he is. Okay? Because we have laws and procedures that they are actually usurping right now. So, all right, we're going to sign off. We'll be back probably later tonight if something comes up, maybe a short little video. If not, we'll be back tomorrow. Ollie said that they're going to do a press conference, really big deal. I don't know what it's going to say, what they're going to talk about. Nothing. I don't know, but we'll cover it. We'll be here or be square. And a lot's going to keep coming down the line. I do know that our Senate, our big Senate, is supposed to have a hearing on the 16th. About election irregularities. So I need to get more information on that. I'll give it to you tomorrow as far as us covering that. So,
well, if it goes the way of all the
well, we'll still cover it.
Of the Facebook hearings, it's
well, yeah, I know, but that one we will still cover. We don't cover the Facebook hearings live and all that junk. But all right, you guys, have a good night. Be blessed. We'll be back at some point, but for sure on Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and on Sunday at 1. Please be following us on resistancechicks.com.
107, Milford, Ohio, 45150. Follow us on resistancechicks.com.
Yeah. 107 Milford, Ohio, 45150. If you send us your letters, we will read them on air. So good night. God bless. Elvis has left the building. Be really excited. I think you should walk away from today. I kind of feel like got all this work done today. I feel really good about it. Really excited about everything that's come out.
Charles is the great reset prince. He just is. So that you're fine with saying that.
Right. All right. We love you guys. Bye.
Let's go.